Hi, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started because it's 7 o'clock. Thank you so much to everyone who is here tonight and interested in this video presentation with Michelle Fincham. She is our sustainability specialist with the City of Fort Collins Sustainability Services. We are here to talk all things sustainable and very excited about it. And also, the weather wouldn't help us realize it, but it is spring and Earth Day is tomorrow. So always fun to talk about green things with sustainability with Michelle. This is part of the library's Know Your City program series. And so there are 9 programs in this series. This is the second. Next month, we will be meeting with neighborhood services and hearing from them about their programs on May 26th. So I hope you come to that as well. That will also be recorded, and this is going to be recorded for viewing later on the library's YouTube channel. So we're just excited. I'm going to pass it over to Michelle. She's got a presentation and some interactive stuff, so I hope people aren't shy about answering some of our things. And again, thank you, and I'll let Michelle go ahead and take over. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Meg, thank you, and you are a sustainability superstar in the library system, so thank you for all your work that you do at the Libraries for Sustainability. Quick question, Meg. Can people chime in or talk if I ask a question? Are they just on mute or?
Yeah, so I can allow people to chime in. I can change that. Okay. Yeah.
And they can chat as well. And okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the chat is open, the Q&A and it is open, and I will look to that and pop in if I see anyone who wants to ask a question.
Thanks, because I like to do as much interaction as possible in this virtual world, so I'll be doing that. So let me start sharing my screen. And again, thank you for inviting me to be here today. Let's see. Did that go up? There we go. Oh, I had to turn off my, mine does automatic subtitles.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. So again, thank you for having me today. I'm delighted to be a part of this series. Today, we're going to be talking about environmental sustainability specifically. When we talk about sustainability in the city of Fort Collins, we do take considerations from a triple bottom line and decision-making from a triple bottom line, meaning we think about the impact to our environment as well as impact to our community, our people, as well as the bottom economic line as well. So we take all of those things into our decision making, but I'm going to be talking about what's going on in the city of Fort Collins with environmental sustainability. And I also want to preface that each one of the subjects that we'll be going over could be its own hour, but we'll just be kind of glancing over it and seeing if you have questions. So again, my name is Michelle Fincham. With the city of Fort Collins, I've been at the city for almost 20 years, 19 years, and most of that time was in the utilities department, doing a lot of community engagement work at the utilities department, a lot of water conservation, energy conservation, and pollution prevention work. Now I'm a little bit more in the climate world in my role as municipal sustainability specialist. So just to ground us with Fort Collins, as we're talking about sustainability, it's just good to remind us about some facts of Fort Collins. So we are about 175,000 people in Fort Collins, and we're growing. It is projected by 2040 that we will be 250,000 people. We also have, of that population, a little over 25,000 students from Colorado State University as of 2020, and a huge school district amount of students as well. Our government is a council manager government, and we have 5 municipal utilities. It actually makes us very special to have those 5 municipal utilities. Many other communities, especially in Colorado, do not have ownership over their utilities like we do. And it's really cool because we can do some neat programs and work with our community in a more flexible and nimble way. And we have moderate politics, which makes us very strong because our decision making can really take everything into consideration and all voices. And so I do feel like some of the work that we do with sustainability is bolstered by the fact that we have moderate politics here. It's not one side or another, but every sustainability and politics shouldn't be interacting really. And we have an innovative community. We know this because we were named one of 6 communities presented with a place of invention by the Smithsonian Institute. This is what the display looks like. The 6 communities were not all a place of invention from recently. That from the 2010s and forward, there are only 2 communities, Fort Collins being one of those, really highlighted at the Smithsonian Institute as a place where people are really thinking about innovation and invention. And I think that's one of our sweet spots for why we're doing so well in the world of sustainability. And this was in 2015, here are a few potentially familiar faces in Washington, D.C. when it was inaugurated to have the Smithsonian open up this. So I just thought I would share that innovation is part of sustainability, and we do have a community full of innovation. So here's what we'll be chatting about today. And again, each one of these subject areas could be an hour: land management, energy, the world of recycling and waste management, transportation, water, and we'll be summarizing with climate, which doesn't have a wonderful image to go with it. But on each one of these, my goal for today is to have fun and to do this in a way that it's not a boring lecture style, but that we perhaps can talk back and forth. People can ask questions and put things into the chat as maybe we do some games or quizzes or just fun ways to approach this subject, because there's lots to cover. So let's start by talking about land. Specifically with the city of Fort Collins, we own a lot of land because we have lots of parks and lots of natural areas and different kinds of land, stormwater detention areas. There's lots of land, and all of it is managed sustainably, but with a different purpose. As you can see right here, these are 2 parcels of land that look very different and are managed very differently. That said, they're still managed with sustainability in mind. So you can manage parks and lots of green grass in a sustainable way, and that's what we do. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's start with this. Now, Meg, I don't know how, I can't really see anybody because I'm sharing my screen, but let's try this out. Let's see how this is going to work. How many natural areas does the city of Fort Collins manage? A, 25, B, 50, or C, 75? What do you think?
A, 25.
Okay, you got 1 vote for 25. Does anybody else want to vote?
I think 50.
Okay, 1 vote for 50. Thank you guys for participating. This is wonderful. It's exactly what I imagined. Any other votes? All right, and the answer is 50. We have 50 natural areas, 36,000 acres, and 100 miles of trails on these natural areas. That's a lot of land. Now, some of them are slightly outside of the city boundaries, like Soapstone, for example, natural areas to the north of us, but the city still owns that land and manages that land and has city staff on that land and uses taxpayer dollars to make sure that we're doing a really good job managing the land. And every one of those 50 natural areas has a plan for how that particular natural area needs to be managed. So let's see if this works. Does anybody have a favorite natural area that you visit?
I love all of them, but my go-to is Reservoir Ridge because it's 5 minutes from my house. But I've also noticed it's become other people's favorites over quarantine as well. So it's gotten really busy.
And that's a whole nother subject we could talk about, is how much we love our natural land. And it has become quite apparent to me that we are so lucky in Fort Collins to have all this land during COVID, when we were all itching to get outside, and so many people have trails nearby. Okay, let's try another quiz question. How many parks does the city of Fort Collins manage? Same answers. A, 25, B, 50, C, 75.
My guess is 25.
Okay.
You guys can guess in the chat as well. Don't want to talk.
Thanks, Megan. You can 75. Okay.
75.
Okay. And the answer is 50. We have 7 community parks, like the one shown here. The big ones like City Park, Roland Moore Park, Fossil, the really big ones with multiple uses, and then 43 neighborhood parks. Perhaps you have a neighborhood park next to you, usually much smaller, but still an area where you can go, perhaps have a picnic, perhaps has a small playground for children to play in or people to hang out in. So does anybody have a favorite park?
The Spring Canyon Park.
Yes, and that playground at Spring Canyon Park is called Inspiration, and I love that name for a park. And they did all kind of new methods of making it anybody with any ability could play on that playground, and so it's very wheelchair friendly and disability friendly. I love that about that park. Thank you for saying that. All right, next quiz question. Part of the land that we manage has to do with stormwater or floods, or really the management of water on land. In 2013, Fort Collins experienced a flood. The way we categorize big floods is kind of like, think of a roulette wheel that you spin, and it'll land on a year. And you say, that was so big, you'd only get that flood once every 25 years, or once every 50 years, or once every 100 years, or once every 500 years. Those are really a 1 in 500 year flood is a really, really big flood. The chances of that happening any given year are 1 in 500. So in 2013, we experienced a flood. What do you guess? Was it a 1 in 25 year flood, 1 in 50, 1 in 100, or 1 in 500 year flood?
A 1 in 100 year.
Okay.
It's my guess too, 100.
Okay. I will say you're close, because neighboring communities did have the exact same rainfall. Was a 1 in 100 for them because they received more rainfall, but officially it was a 1 in 50 year flood for us. There was a lot of water going on in the Poudre River. This is a picture of one of our trails over on Poudre, off the Poudre River on Poudre River Trail, up north, kind of by Old Town. Completely inundated with water. You can see how high up to the bridge it is. But it was, do you see the theme? 50 natural areas and 50 parks, 1 in 50 year flood. Maybe that'll help you remember. But we have had bigger floods here in Fort Collins in the past. And we have an entire division of people working to ensure that when we do have those big rains, the water has someplace to go. And so it's not flooding our homes and our businesses and our streets. Of course, there's going to be some of that, but at least the water is channeled to have someplace to go. And perhaps during a flood, you've seen a parcel of land fill up like a bathtub. If you've ever seen that before, that is by design. Those are called stormwater detention areas, and all the stormwater goes there and detains it and slows it down as it enters the river. That is a engineering feature that we have in Fort Collins. And right now, if you were to drive around, even with this rain, it just looks like a big open piece of land. They're all over in Fort Collins. So in concluding the land part and opening it up to questions, some easy things that we can all do to keep our land healthy is remember that storm drains go to our river, the Poudre River or any creek in town. And so if anything is going down that storm drain, if it's a chemical from your lawn, like a pesticide, it's getting washed into the river. If it's actual trash, of course, it's being washed into the river. If it's dog poop, it's getting washed into the river. So whatever happens on the land, especially during rain events or snow events, that all drains. You can watch it right now after the snow. It all is draining to those storm drains. That is by design. That's what they're designed to do. But they're designed to convey water. It just so happens to be a wonderful conveyance of pollutants if you don't keep those pollutants out as well. So keeping your lid on your trash from the photo down here at the bottom is also a really good thing to keep our land healthy, because if there is trash, we have a pretty clean community, you have to admit. But if there is trash around, it's probably from a wind event when a wind knocked over a trash bin or took trash out of a trash bin. That's when we see the most trash around. And so making sure that your trash has your trash and recycling have lids on them is really important. And of course, picking up after your pet, no matter where you are. There's all kinds of reasons to do that, but for the health of the land, it's a good one too. So I'm going to pause before we move on to our next subject and see if there's any questions.
Michelle, I have a quick question. When the water goes down into the drains, it doesn't go to like a stormwater facility or like a water facility to get cleaned or anything. It just goes right to the creeks and to the Poudre. Is that correct?
That is correct. In our community, that's what it does. In a lot of the West, that's what it does. But that is not the case everywhere. So if you've lived in another community in the United States, they might have facilities where it is cleaned. But for us, because we get flash flooding, it is designed to get water off the road, off of the impermeable surfaces as soon as possible. So it goes directly to the river. All storm drains in Fort Collins go directly to the river. In fact, if you look at this picture here, you see a little bitty, like it looks like a sticker. That sticker, that blue and green sticker says storm drains lead to rivers, kind of as a reminder that don't put anything down there or don't let anything get down there because it'll go into the river.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that land river connection is huge. So any management that you have of the land impacts the water as well. All right, let's talk about energy. I'm going to try this again. Where do we get our energy in Fort Collins? What's the source of energy in Fort Collins? If I were in person, I'm trying to make my in-person skills work on Zoom, and I don't think they're working that well. But let's talk about energy and where energy comes from. This is the energy pathway. In general, you have a coal-fired power plant, and we have one for Fort Collins that generates energy. And remember I said we have a municipal utility. We have our electric utility is in charge of distributing that energy. So we have all the lines that distribute it. So the generation happens at Platte River Power Authority. We generate it and it goes into your homes and businesses and schools, et cetera. And the model was created on a centralized generation. And this picture just shows that things are changing. There's a transformation. And the way I like to describe this is like this. Interstates, imagine if all of the interstates were just one way. And all of a sudden we wanted to make it two ways, which is really what's happening when we start putting renewables and different sources of energy into the grid. That takes some time. It's possible, of course it's possible, but it just takes some time, especially when it's been designed to all flow one way. So now we have this integrated system because we're generating wind, we're generating hydro, we're generating solar, but we also have battery power capabilities, right? Where we can store energy and put it back into the grid, or our homes, if you have solar panels on your home, is creating electricity and some of it can go back into the grid. And those little pathways are starting to be developed. One day, even our EV cars could be a source of holding energy at like a battery. That is some of the research that's going on right now. So there's a big transformation going on, is the point of this slide, in the energy world. The majority of our energy and electricity still comes from our coal-fired power plant, but we have a lot of it coming from hydro, solar, and wind, because Platte River Power Authority has some aggressive climate goals. Which is great for us because we also have aggressive climate goals. And so we work very closely with our generation of electricity. And they have put solar panels on, and they have purchased wind turbines, and they have purchased rights to some of the hydropower that's been created. And that is making our resource mixed. And it's not just, it used to just mostly be coal and with some hydro. And now it's much more mixed. And that is the exact system that we're working towards. Every year, it gets more integrated. But this is a slow transformation. And lucky us, we've been at it for a really long time. Some other communities are just now getting started in this work. So here's our quiz. Again, I'm not sure how this is going to work if you're listening in, or maybe you can chat if this works, but I have an energy game for us. So the City of Fort Collins Utilities offers rebate for recycling and upgrading some home appliances. Name one. And this works really well when you're in a classroom setting. I did create this slide deck just for today, but seeing how this works. Okay, maybe you can write one down. Maybe you can think of one in your head. So we offer refrigerator, dishwasher, and clothes washer rebates, all things that take a lot of energy in your home. And so if you buy an Energy Star, or one that is really efficient with energy, that's better for everybody. So this is about energy conservation and the use of energy. So energy vampires, I love that word, or appliances or electronics that use electricity when they're turned off. Name the top energy vampires in your home.
TV.
Aha, thank you. You got one. Computers, both desktops and laptops. Game consoles, especially if you hit that pause and walk away, and the screen might go black. It is still running because it's paused and ready for you to pick up that game. Laser printers, VCRs and DVDs, and microwave. So, but anything that like you pick up a remote and can turn it on immediately, like a TV, that is drawing electricity at all times because it's ready to go. Same with computers. Laptops not so much, but desktops definitely. It's ready to go. It's plugged in, and so they're using electricity when you might not think they are. The only way you know is if it's unplugged. Again, another way to think of this is anything that has a clock is using electricity all the time. Heating and cooling can account for half of your home's energy use. Name changes you can make without buying new equipment to reduce the energy it takes to keep your home comfortable. Okay. Did you think of one?
I would say change the temperature. Yeah.
Yep. You can adjust your thermostat 3 to 5 degrees up or down, especially when no one's home. Opening blinds during the day in the winter to let some of that passive solar come in. Closing blinds during the day in the summer to keep that passive solar out. And keeping your vents and filters clean and clear, because if you do turn on your AC or your heat, it's pumping. And if things are dirty, or if you have filters that are dirty, it has to work harder to pump the air through, and that makes it use more electricity. Name the top home energy conservation measures that are recommended to help you use energy wisely in your home.
LED lights.
Very good. Yep. A programmable thermostat, again, kind of what we said earlier. If nobody's home, turning down or up that thermostat, depending on the time of year. Insulating walls and attic. LED lights, that's a less expensive option than insulating. And if you're a renter, you can do LED lights. Using your hot water wisely, every time you use hot water, it makes you use gas to heat up that hot water. So it's a little bit different than electricity, but still it's using energy. And of course, turning off computers, lights, video games, completely turning them off. So this is just to let you know of all of these programs that we have. Again, these programs are made available to you through Fort Collins Utilities. There's lots of rebate programs that we have. If you want to buy a new appliance, please make sure that it's energy efficient, and then we rebate you for that. We have audits that we can do, that somebody will come in and evaluate your home and help you be more energy efficient. And we also have smart meters on all of our homes. And at 15-minute intervals, it's gathering data on your energy use. One cool thing you can do with this is when you're on vacation, check it out. How much energy is your home using when you're on vacation? That is a curiosity, and you can imagine how much more you're using. But the graphs in there, if you like data, if you like graphs, the graphs in there are really neat. You can see on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, how much your home is using. And ensure you have efficient lighting. Those are pretty relatively easy to find in Fort Collins now, those energy efficient lighting. Okay. Let's talk about transportation. Actually, I don't have many slides for this one because transportation is complex. Well, these are all complex, I should say, but transportation is really complex, and there's a lot to talk about in the world of sustainable transportation, a lot of things going on. So I thought I would ask people, what is their favorite, what is their most used method of transportation? And then if you don't have to use a car, if you can't use a car, if you were told you couldn't use a car for a day, if it broke down or whatever, what would be your preferred alternative mode of transportation? I was hoping some people would chime in and let me know.
Riding the bike.
Do you ride the bike on the trails?
Yes.
Or on the street? Okay. How do you feel about the streets, riding your bike?
I feel like sometimes the streets are narrower, so I just prefer to ride on the sidewalk, so I'm away from the cars. But most of the streets are very wide, so I can just ride on the street.
Thank you.
I love riding my bike, especially when it's really warm out. And just for me, my commute to work is so nice. There's bike trails the whole way, or bike lanes, so it feels safe. Mm-hmm.
You are lucky. My commute to work, if I ride my bike in, I call it a third, a third, a third. I have a third of it is a bike trail. A third of it is through CSU. So that's its own vibe because there's people everywhere. And a third of it is on streets, urban, with traffic around.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody driven an electric vehicle before?
I own one, so that's really nice.
Which one?
A Nissan Leaf. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
It's it's been really nice and really much easier than I ever thought it would be. So.
There are Ryan Drive events. Northern Colorado Clean City Coalition is a great partner in, they're an organization here in the Northern Colorado area that promote things like alternative transportation and electric vehicles. They host webinars. They help with calculators on calculating your return on investment. They host ride and drive, so you get opportunities to drive it, to just know what it feels like. And they bring experts in to answer questions that are not necessarily trying to sell you a car. Going into a dealership and asking questions might turn into a sales pitch, right? But you can just ask questions. Drive Electric Northern Colorado is also an organization that existed since about 2013 in Northern Colorado. They're not as active anymore because the uptick in electric vehicles that we have, it was a group that was started to really get things going in Colorado to talk about electric vehicles, get our first charging stations. But we do have public charging stations in town. We do have many companies that have charging station for their employees when their employees go to work, like HP in the hospital and Jack's Outdoor Gear, just to name a couple. So the world of EVs is really blossoming right now. I can talk a lot about EVs, but I won't. But there's a lot going on there. And also with, of course, with the MAX, we're very soon, Fort Collins will have its first electric bus. It's on the way. From the time you order an electric bus to the time you get it is somewhere on the order of 18 months without COVID. So we're not quite sure, but we have ordered our first electric bus. So we're very excited when that will come in. And there's an entire department that focuses on alternative transportation. It's called FC Moves. And they do all the bike share programs, the micromobility, the e-scooters, all of those kinds of programs that you see around town is handled by a whole department of people that are focused on how do we move people from where they need to go in ways other than a car? How do we make it easy? How do we make it safe? How do we make it affordable? How do we make it equitable? They're thinking about all of those things. And I think it shows. We're a bicycle-friendly community. We have won lots of awards for all of the innovations that we have around alternative transportation. We have the open streets events where we shut down streets and let people take over. Those are really fun and also kind of showcase that, you know, streets can be used for more than just cars sometimes. So that's that. I thought that with transportation, I would just see if there's any questions and then we would move on. Let's talk about another complex subject. Okay, here's a clue in this picture. When you turn on your tap to get a sip of water or to wash your hands, where does that water come from?
Horsetooth Reservoir.
Yes, about 50% comes from Horsetooth Reservoir. The other 50% comes from the Poudre River. This has proven to help us become quite the resilient community. And what I mean by that is specifically wildfires. So when we had, in 2012, when we had big wildfires on our watershed near the Poudre River, it made it so that we couldn't pull off the water of the Poudre River and clean it in a way that you could deliver it that was health and safe to our community. I actually can't remember the timeline. It was like 2 weeks. I know I'm being recorded. I'm gonna have to look that up, but there's a certain amount of time where we just couldn't do that. Lucky us, we had an alternate source of water. You in Fort Collins didn't skip a beat. You didn't notice a thing. You turn on the tap. You don't know where it comes from because it's blended, but it didn't make it so that all of a sudden we were without a water source. The same thing happened when Horsetooth had to have some maintenance and they had to drain it last year. It was a project called HOP. And they had to drain it to get down to these places that needed to be fixed. You know, it's a dam after all, and you want to make sure that it's safe. And so they had to drain that down. And again, we had an alternate source, and we did have to go into some water restrictions in last October to make sure that people weren't using that water on their lawns mostly. But lucky us, we have two sources of water, and we are the envy of other communities who only have one source of water. But we had some great leaders a long time ago think about these kinds of things and say, you know, we should probably have more than one source. So let's talk about water and water conservation. I feel like I don't really need to say very much about the importance of conserving water in Fort Collins. In the arid West where we live, we don't get much water. We don't get much water. We're always worried about the amount of water we have. And so we should always be considering water conservation or just using your water wisely. Use it, but use it wisely. And so what are the highest uses of water in Fort Collins?
Irrigation on the lawn.
Bingo. Yes, 50% of the water that is made, and I'll put maids in quotation mark because that just means that it's cleaned and ready to be delivered to homes and businesses, goes on outdoor, onto landscape. About 30% is used in the bathroom. About 10% is used with your laundry. So buying a water-wise laundry, a washing machine is beneficial. About 5% in the kitchen and about 5% with leaks. So you can think about your own home and think about where you would like to make sure that you're using water most wisely. But you're right, about 50% goes on the lawns and landscape. And if we get into a situation where we're in a drought in Fort Collins, that's why we go into water restrictions on your lawn, because it's the easiest and quickest way to say, the lawn can't get as much water. We need this for our businesses to function, for our homes to function, make sure everybody has enough water indoors. And so that's why we go into water restrictions. There's all kinds of things and all kinds of innovation happening in the lawn care and use in lawn use with the lawn. One indicator is, money speaks. And so we do have a 3-tiered rate system for our water customers. So the more water you use, the more you pay. That might seem logical, but it's not like that in many communities. And it wasn't even like that for us in the not so distant past. So we do have these tiered consumption rates. And so if you stay in the lowest tier, you pay the least amount. And we're basically rewarding those who can do their best on conserving their water and using their water wisely. This includes people with lawns. It's not just people that don't have lawns. You can use your water wisely on the lawn and still be in that first tier. So what can you do about that? And this is mostly speaking to those that have water sprinkler systems. Make sure that your timers are adjusted for exactly the amount of water that's needed. Often twice a week is all you need. The interesting thing is, especially what we find is if you get a sprinkler system installed, they'll go to quote unquote factory settings. Factory settings are often like 20 minutes, 3 times a week. And so you need to go in there and adjust that. And if you don't know how to do that, get a free sprinkler audit and somebody will come out and audit your system and help you come up with some new times of day, amounts of time, and even between zones. Sometimes in the front lawn, you do need 20 minutes, but in the back, you only need 10. Always check your sprinkler systems once a month, at least, for leaks and repair those leaks. Use your sprinkler system technology that's out there. There's all kinds of new technology that uses data that has satellite systems involved with it. They'll do things like know the soil moisture at any given time and adjust accordingly. Some really cool technologies out there. But highly recommend that if you don't have a sprinkler system, but you know somebody that does, get a free sprinkler audit system. Indoor water. So again, laundry, we would like to incentivize you to get that clothes washer that's highly efficient. So we do have a $50 rebate on that. And just be aware of your load sizes. If you just got one pair of jeans, just wait until you got a more full load with that. In the kitchen, which is another area that uses a lot of water, aerators on your kitchen sink. Aerators, all they do is they screw into the top of like your faucet, and they restrict the flow and add a little bit of water. Add a little bit of air, like bubbles, if you will. And so the water still comes out, but you're using a little bit less water each time. Use a dishwasher over hand washing. So especially with a family of 4 like mine, you're going to save water washing in a dishwasher other than letting the water run or filling up the sink with water to do it. Dishwashers are much more efficient with the water. And of course, make sure that dishwasher is nice and full. So some water conservation tips that you can do to help with water. Again, water is a deep and complex subject. Any questions or anything you'd like to talk about with water before I move on? Very thankful for the water falling out of the sky right now. I wish it weren't so cold, but it's helping us not be in a drought right now. Anytime there's precipitation, it's a good thing. Okay, let's talk about waste and recycling. We do have zero waste goals in the city of Fort Collins. We are trying to help everyone know what to do with their waste, know where to recycle and how to recycle. And that includes the full cycle of waste. So when we think about waste, you think about first, do you need to buy it, right? Whatever it is you're purchasing, do you need to buy it? And then now that you've purchased it, how long and can you make this thing last? But this thing, whatever it is, must eventually get disposed of. What are your options for disposing of it? So that's the full cycle when we think about waste. And we can reduce a lot of waste in that last part of like, I got this thing, I got to figure out what to do with it if we just didn't buy it in the first place, if we don't need it. So you need to think along all of those lines when we think about zero waste initiatives in Fort Collins. It's not just about the very end. Now that we have this waste, what do we do with it? But once we're there, how do we incentivize economy around this? Do we have somebody that wants to take something that is being recycled, paper, plastics, and they can make a product out of it and put that back into the system and create that economy? So that now there's demand for more recycling and demand to have this thing continually be recycled. So it's a very complex topic. I told you all of these are complex topics. But we do know that waste and recycling recycling, I should say, is quite confusing. There has been a lot of changes, and we know from just looking at recycling streams, looking at the actual things that go into the recycling bin at our Timberline Recycling Center, that there's a lot of what we call wish cycling. I wish it were recycled. I'll just do that. I think it can be recycled. I'll just put it in the recycling bin. And that's not necessarily the best thing to do. So since it's confusing, let's go over a couple of things that we know are most confusing. So plastic bags. What do you do with those? Can they go into your recycling bin that you have in your office or your home? Plastic bags. Yes, no, or I don't know.
No.
Why not?
I feel like you can just recycle it at the grocery store. They have a bin there, and I feel like I saw that there was a list of all the things you can put in your recycle bin from the city, and the plastic bags was not on that list.
Mm-hmm. So you're right. You're absolutely right. Plastic bags cannot go into that mixed recycling, but they can be recycled if you put them off to the side and take them to a place that accepts them. The main reason is this: when you have those plastic bags in the mixed recycling, they tear apart and they're pretty strong, especially if you think of like trash bags. They're pretty strong. And those machines, if you just imagine for a second where all that recycling material goes. It goes to a massive site, and all of the recycling goes on this kind of a conveyor belt. And there's magnets that pull the aluminum off, and there's slits that other things fall through. The glass goes off one place. And there's a churning part where it's like pulling things off. And plastic bags make the conveyor belt stop. It is the biggest reason that recycling centers have to shut down. Something goes wrong, have to maintain them. They just pull apart and they get they get caught up in all those wheels. And so they just can't go in with all, when you're in mixed recycling centers where everything's trying to be separated out, you don't want your plastic bags in there. Now, if it's separated off, you can go to a place that takes those plastic bags and basically just makes it into a new plastic bag. They can be recycled, just don't put them into your mixed recycling. Okay, how about this? Shredded paper. Can shredded paper, what do you do with it? Can it go into your recycling bin? Can it go, do you put it in the trash? Do you put it in a plastic bag and then put it in your recycling bin? Do you bring it to the Timberline Recycling Center? And I just looked at the time. I'm going to move through this to answer this question for you. So the answer is shredded paper should go to the Timberline Recycling Center, especially if it's good, high quality white paper. Yes, absolutely, it can be recycled. If you put it into the recycling bin with everything else and somebody throws a half full Coke can, because that happens, or a half full whatever, that turns into glue and it just gets gunky and it can't be recycled. I mean, it doesn't gunk things up like the other thing does, but it just can't be recycled. So you've just lost the value of that. But if you do have shredded paper because you need to shred it for whatever reason and you want to make sure that white paper is recycled, absolutely can. Just make sure it's all white paper and you can go to the Timberline Recycling Center. They have a huge bin only for white paper. White paper is high value. Recycling white paper is the best. It goes mostly into other things like newspapers and stuff, which is low value. The highest thing, if you're going to recycle any kind of paper products, make sure that that white paper gets recycled. Okay, just a few more, and I'm going to blaze through these because just to get to the answers. So, can plastic forks and knives be recycled? The answer is no. We find them all the time in the recycling bin. They cannot be recycled. Low value plastic, no market for it. You cannot put them in there. What should not go in the recycling bin? Aluminum cans with liquid it being the words to pay attention to. Shredded paper, plastic utensils, food, styrofoam, plastic bags, paper plates, and coffee cups. The answer is H, all of the above. These are all things that shouldn't go into your recycling bin for various reasons. And where can you find out what can and can't be recycled, where to recycle it? We have a wonderful site called A to Z, fcgov.com, A to Z. It's a wonderful search engine, and anything in the Fort Collins and Northern Colorado area, it'll pop up if you can bring it there to recycle it, or it'll tell you you can't recycle it and you need to dispose of it in the trash. But please go visit that site. It's a wonderful site and it's maintained. Okay, here's our final subject. Let's talk about climate and air quality. Again, I'm going to buzz through these just a little bit. So our climate our climate goals are aggressive or aspirational, as we call them as well. Our goals are to be 20% reduced below our 2020, below our 2005 level by 2020. Let me say that again. By the year 2020, we want to be 20% below the 2005 level of greenhouse gases. By the year 2030, we want to be 80% below that 2005 level. And by 2050, we're going for carbon neutral. So these are the goals that we have in mind, the target. So we're in 2021. We have not gotten the information for the year 2020. There's a lag of gathering all the data to be able to calculate the inventory of about, it's over a year. It's a little over 12 months. But we do have the 2019 inventory, and we're 7% below. Actually, this graph isn't quite updated because it would be a little bit of an uptick right there. And that is because there's a source of greenhouse gases that were not being calculated previously that we found out through best practices that should be from industry in town. And so we started adding those numbers in. And of course, it impacted the numbers that we have. But there's, like I said, in the energy world and in the transportation world, but mostly in the energy world, lots of wonderful things are happening. And we're pretty confident we're going to get to that 20% reduction around 2020, maybe 2021, but pretty close. Honestly, the focus is 2030 right now. How are we going to get to those big changes that need to happen to have that 80% reduction? Well, we have a climate action plan, and our previous climate action plan that was written in 2015 was recognized by an organization called C40 Cities. It's a Bloomberg Philanthropies Award. This is an international award, and we were selected as the best climate action plan in 2017. So we're on to something. And the fact that we're pretty confident we're going to reach that 2020 target within a range of around 2020 gives us confidence that we're doing something right in the planning. But we moved on from that 2015 plan, and we have a brand new plan that council just adopted in March. So hot off the press, so hot off the press that we haven't even gone to implementation phase yet. A lot of focus was being done on writing the plan with a lot of community input. And so we have these two plans that we operate off of right now. The one on the left of your screen is called the Municipal Sustainability and Adaptation Plan, and that is internal for all the operations. So again, talking about land and land use, waste and waste that's generated within the city, how we're managing our own buildings and energy production, that all falls within this Municipal Sustainability and Adaptation Plan. The community-wide plan is our climate future, and that's where everybody has to pitch in. Every business, every person, every community member, every school, every university student, everyone has to pitch in. This was written so that everybody can see themselves in the plan, so that everybody can pitch in, which was kind of a departure from the way many plans are written that says, okay, here's all the things that we have to do, very technical. This is mixing the technical and the people-centered solutions that need to happen. Let's talk a little bit about how climate is bigger than just Fort Collins, of course. And so this is Hickenlooper in 2017 signing on to the Compact of Colorado Communities that says that we in Colorado will be meeting the Paris Climate Agreement goals at the state. We are a member of that Compact of Colorado Communities. In Fort Collins, we are also a member of the Colorado Communities for Climate Action, which is an advocacy group at the state legislation level, pushing for legislation, pushing for bills, laws, if you will, that will help the entire state reach greenhouse gas emission goals. So this is the United States Climate Alliance. These are the 25 states that signed on to that picture with Hickenlooper signing on that said we will meet those Paris Climate Agreement guidelines. Check it out at the U.S. Climate Alliance. So Colorado was number 23 to sign on in March of 2019. So we're really excited about the fact that we're one of a select number of 25 states, half of the states signed on to this, including Colorado. But the thing with climate is the shared leadership piece. We need leadership at all levels to solve the climate crisis, from the national level, international level, national level, state level, which I just talked about, all the way to the community level. And if there's anything that when we talk about environmental sustainability, like I did today, there's so much there are so many things happening at the local level that really impact our climate that we have control over as a community. That's really cool. And so we know if we call this a $10 problem, the city of Fort Collins has a couple of dollars to pitch in, but everybody needs to pitch in $1 or 50 cents to get to the solutions that we need. We need creative financing around this. We need community engagement. We need an upswell of movement to have many, many people excited and moving forward and all the solutions that we have around climate action. One of those things is the Shift Earth Day Challenge. If you're aware of this, this is actually wrapping up tomorrow, since tomorrow is Earth Day. It's a challenge out there to lose 5,000 pounds by earning 5,000 points. And the points, it's really cool. This is tailored for Fort Collins. Those points are calculated in a way that they're actual reductions to greenhouse gases. And so the goal is if we can get 1,500 households to sign on through a challenge, through a friendly challenge, through challenges within churches, within universities, et cetera, then collectively we can reduce the greenhouse gases by 1,000 tons. And so if you would like, and if you can, go to shiftfoco.com and check it out. The platform that it's on, of course, has the Earth Day Challenge, but the platform never goes away. You can always sign up and look at all the different actions that are on there and start gaining points at any time, or do a challenge at any time that you want. We just try and and mobilized a lot of people for the Earth Day Challenge. And so that's going to be going on for part of the Earth Day virtual Earth Day event that's coming up. Speaking of the virtual Earth Day event, the Sustainable Living Association here in town in Fort Collins is who hosts the Earth Day event. There'll be announcements of who won the Earth Day Challenge that I just showed you at that event. And there's other community groups here as well, Fort Collins Sustainability Group and the Climate Reality Project Northern Colorado. These are just three that kind of have sustainability in their title, if you will. They're just, right around sustainability. But if you think about land, there's so many groups that are around the conservation of land or preservation of land. If you think about transportation, there's bike clubs and there's EV enthusiast clubs, etc. So for any one of these, there's like individual groups that get together. So my suggestion, join a community group if you can, find out what's going on and lean in and see where you can help with that. So that said, I'm done. I'm going to stop sharing to see if I can see everybody and see in these last few minutes if there's any questions I can answer.
Michelle, when is the Earth Day event or virtual event that they're doing? Do you know?
Tomorrow, but I think it's a couple of days. I think there's things going on through the weekend, knowing that people are working in schools in session. So I probably should know this, but I would say tomorrow, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but I really have a desire to look it up, Google it right now.
I am.
Thank you, Sustainable Living Association.
So you mentioned a few different ways that we can kind of be involved of doing one of those challenges or joining a community group, but what do you think is the best first step for like an individual or a household to take to move towards sustainable living?
Great question. Well, you're here today, aren't you? Great first step. I presented a lot of different options of where you can start, from your trash to your energy to your water. I think if you go into that platform I just mentioned, the shiftfoco.com, it pops up all like 20 or 30 things one can do. And then there's points associated with it. And those points are telling you that if you do this, it's great. Collectively, it's great. If you do that, this makes a much bigger impact. Not everybody can do everything, right? You might not be able to put solar panels on your house. That's expensive, but you can work on your waste stream, and especially food in the waste stream, like that goes to the landfill, creates gases that are contributing to greenhouse gases. You can put food down your garbage disposal, but remember, it's not a wood chipper, it's a garbage disposal. If you get that service, if you live in a house that gets a service for leaves and branches and things, if it's vegetables only, you can put the peelings of vegetables and stuff in there. There's co-ops that want vegetables for their chickens. There are options. First step is awareness. So you're here today, so congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Michelle, you were correct. So the Sustainable Living Association virtual Earth Day starts tomorrow and goes through the 24th. And so they'll have a lot of events for the next 3 days, or 3 days.
Yeah, I know that we're announcing the winner of the Shift Earth Day Challenge at one of those events, because we were working on that the other day, but I'm not sure which day. Exciting. And there's giveaways and prizes and people talking. So yeah, if you can, try and join a session or two there. Right, Meg, it's 8 o'clock.
All right. Well, one, thank you everyone who came tonight and who is going to watch us later. Just like me, I think you'll learn a lot. I learned a lot, and I have been a part of city sustainability to some degree, but I still learn every time that I speak with Michelle. Her passion for this is so great, and she's worked really hard in sustainability, and her group is amazing. So I'm just so pleased that she was here presenting tonight and letting us know about all the cool things we're doing as a city. Very proud to be Fort Collins resident when I hear about all these great things. So thank you, Michelle. And thank you everyone who came tonight. And if you want to catch up on this, it'll be posted on the library's YouTube site probably tomorrow. So if you want to refresh and see what did Michelle say about that? Yeah, so you'll have that information. But thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.